Are we ready for a podcast? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You sure you're going to be able to handle this, old man?
Well, it's only 6 o'clock. My bedtime is until 7:30.
Okay.
Need some warm milk and maybe some oatmeal before I go to bed.
Jesus Christ. Why? I hate it here. Okay. Are you ready?
Are you?
No, the question is, are you?
Yeah.
I'm always ready. Okay. Hello and welcome to Learning the Law, a podcast about all things legal with a focus on current events, where we try to teach you things in 1 hour. My name is Ashley, aka Phoenix Nymphy, and my co-host, who's the man of the hour, my husband, Ron.
Hi.
This podcast is purely educational and should not be taken as legal advice. This podcast does not create an attorney-client relationship. This podcast is based on his interpretation of relevant law. Any opinions expressed are the opinions of the individual making them and do not reflect the opinions of any firm, company, or other individuals. Ron is a licensed practicing attorney in the state of California.
Yes, I am.
So, woohoo! Today is January 20th, and we have literally watched the inauguration stuff all day. I did no other work other than watch the inauguration.
Right. I watched when I could, but I did a lot of other work today.
Yeah, you actually had to work. So what we were discussing was the federal felony murder charge based off of the riots. And one of the things that a lot of people were concerned about was whether or not Trump, one, was going to pardon himself, two, if he was going to pardon those that were part of the riot. And the answer is he did not
do either.
Right. He didn't even pardon his own family.
Right.
So,
because then, my opinion, he would have had to admit there was some wrongdoing there.
Well, and a lot of the, if you watch, a lot of the people, a lot of the casters and stuff like that have also said that he was advised that that's how that would look, is that he would be admitting some kind of guilt. So that's why he didn't. That is the public opinion as to why he did not pardon anyone.
Right. And pardoning himself may or may not have worked anyway.
Right. It would have set a precedent, a weird precedent, that I'm thankful he did not try to set. Right.
Because if you can pardon yourself, for example, a president could walk into the Senate, shoot any of the senators he wanted to shoot, pardon himself, and since it's on federal land, he'd be avoiding federal law. You can pardon yourself for that. You can pardon yourself for any, so I'm of the opinion that you cannot pardon yourself.
Right. So, just to kind of catch, we are still, this is a brand new podcast. We have attempted this particular idea before, but not in a live format. So this is new. This is on the fly. So for those of you who are curious, we went semi-viral on TikTok, and a lot of people asked a lot of really good questions based off of just one of our videos that I posted on my TikTok. You can hear the audio in the previous podcast. I'm not going to play it again here. And because of all of those questions and those amazing questions and just the content and the topic in general, it kind of exudes. Is the word exude the right word? It kind of exudes itself to more than a 60-second platform. Did I use that word right?
You get the meaning across.
It kind of sets itself up to be better on a longer platform. Now I do edit these. I do edit the podcast and throw some of the questions up on TikTok for people who who don't make it to the podcast. But yes, that's where this came from. And so we're going to focus on current events. And so the riots are still, so now where do we go from here? That's going to be on everyone's mind, because I have to say, in my opinion, Biden's speech was definitely one of the better presidential inauguration speeches in a very long time. Now, the bar was set very, very low with Trump, but one of the things that he kept presenting was we need unity, which is true. However, we still need to hold those people accountable who tried to tear our country apart and who's still trying to tear our country apart. So
Agreed.
Where do we go from here? Now, one of the biggest questions was what all can Trump actually, he's now a private citizen. So what can he actually be set as? Because he can't do anything anymore. He can't do squat. So what could he possibly get slammed with? Because there's been a lot that came out. There's a lot that came out.
They're investigating him for bribery.
Couldn't they
in
charge
relation to his pardons?
Couldn't they get him with RICO too? Because of the fact that there was an article that came out that all of the money that his people were donating to him, his son had an umbrella corporation and was funneling that money there. So it was fraud. It wouldn't be RICO because he didn't do anything with drugs.
RICO doesn't have to do with drugs.
But could it? I'm sorry. I'm having a field day with this because there's so much stuff that came out this week. It's insane.
The number one thing is the U.S. attorney in Southern New York is definitely going to indict him on taxes.
On tax fraud?
Yep.
Yeah, because it has been proven that he hasn't paid his taxes.
Well, I'm not going to say it's been proven.
Oh, okay.
There's a highly likely indication that he inflated and deflated the value of his real estate assets in order to get certain contributions and deductions, which lowered his tax bill.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I'd like to pay only $750 in taxes.
Right. Or, in Bezos is nothing.
And then when all of this is going on, you got Scotland investigating him for the golf resort he bought there for cash, when in the meantime, millions of dollars in cash. But the tax returns here says that, he didn't have any cash. And this golf resort is losing millions of dollars a year. So it's also being investigated for money laundering.
In another country.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's not America. We're here to talk about American politics and American law. So he is being tried for.
He hasn't been indicted for anything yet, so he's not being tried.
So they are attempting to charge him with tax evasion or tax fraud. Which
tax
one?
Fraud.
Tax fraud. Okay. What else can he possibly be charged for?
Federally, he could be charged with inciting the riot.
Okay. A lot of people do not understand how he could be charged with a riot, and I'm going to. I want to educate people and to help them understand. So whether or not they're trolling, some people may not actually understand. So explain to people why the language that he used can be admissible in a court of law.
Well, inciting a riot is more than just saying, hey, let's go have a riot.
Right.
For 2 months ahead of time, he's whipped up his followers, and I will call them followers, by telling them the election was stolen, that we need to go take our country back. He has his personal attorney say they need trial by combat.
Did he really? I don't remember that.
Yeah, and now he's just saying, oh, well, that's a Game of Thrones reference. Giuliani is a piece of work.
Okay.
Then he said he was going to march with them down the street to the Capitol building.
And they are very upset that he didn't. That is one thing I've seen a lot of Trump supporters cry, literally in tears, cry about.
He, instead of marching with them, went to the White House and watched the mayhem ensue on TV. Much to his delight, from what has been told.
Now, these are just...
So how does that work into inciting the riot?
Yeah.
Listen to the people who were actually partaking in the riot. They were there on the president's orders. They knew exactly what the president wanted out of them. That's why they were all expecting pardons. President's going to pardon me because I was there because of him.
Now, I have seen the videos, especially of, there's the one lady, I don't remember her name because I don't care to remember their names because they are terrible people, in my opinion. However, it was the lady it was the real estate agent who took a private jet to DC, begging for a pardon from Trump.
Yeah.
Did you see that video?
Yeah.
Oh, she was crying. Like,
And if you want to bring the charges, you get the testimony of all the rioters saying that they were there solely because Trump told them to be there.
Do you think they're going to, now this just kind of popped into my head, do you think they're going to take a plea deal so that they can get that for Trump? Or do you think, what would you do in that case? Like, would you try to give them a plea deal if they did that?
The ones that were outside of the building and never went in?
Yeah.
I would look at doing that.
Do you think some people will get a plea deal?
I do. Because some people know, once again, we'll go back to it, who bashed in that.
They arrested man
a
who is
suspect.
They arrested a man who's suspected to have actually killed the officer in question.
Yeah. If they're going to get the guy who actually killed him, they're not going to deal with felony murder for a bunch of other people.
Right. Because they actually have the murderer.
Right.
However, you have to prove that that's the murderer.
Right. So what they could do is, if they know who was around at the time and could identify this guy, they could threaten the felony murder on them in order to get them to testify against the murderer. A lot of times felony murder is used as a hammer.
Yeah.
You know.
In this, I'm actually curious what all, you have the insurrection he could be charged with. You have the tax fraud he could be charged with. What else did he do in office that he could be charged with? I mean, the Mueller report itself, Mueller said that there's a lot for him to be convicted for that.
Right, and Mueller didn't take the step to put it in his report.
Oh, he didn't?
No. Mueller didn't make any recommendations on what charges. So, Mueller...
So, we may not even be able to use that report then.
It was a worthless investigation in the end. Because he in the end did not have the balls to make recommendations.
That's a shame.
Now, what you are going to have is a new Attorney General, Neil Gorsuch, whose Supreme Court seat was taken away at the end of Obama's term because Mitch McConnell wouldn't give him a vote.
Oh, that's right.
So I would expect,
because the first Supreme Court justice that Trump put in was actually supposed to be for Obama's administration.
Right.
Which,
I'd expect some righteous condemnation coming from the new Attorney General. I really do. He should have been charged in another article of impeachment with dereliction of duty. As commander-in-chief, numerous people contacted him to mobilize the National Guard way before he ever actually did, because he liked the chaos that was going on. If a commander in the military did that in a theater of war, they'd be drummed out of the service.
He'd be court-martialed.
Yeah.
Or they would be court-martialed.
Trump is commander-in-chief, and if they impeached him on that charge, he would be subject to the Court of Military Justice.
Now, could they still, because the impeachment proceedings are not over, because it still has to go through the Senate. I know we're kind of like bouncing around with this, so I hope y'all are following the conversation. But it's still kind of on topic. As far as the impeachment goes, like, yes, he was impeached by the House. However, what is it that the Senate has to do in order for, like, explain impeachment process?
Okay. The House is the one that votes for impeachment.
Right.
The Senate is the one who tries the charges.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So in this case, the only charge is inciting an insurrection. That is terribly difficult to prove with a 2/3 majority needed.
And they cannot add anything else onto that now that they've already impeached him.
Correct.
Could they impeach him a third time?
He's no longer sitting. No.
Okay, so the impeachment, I thought you could impeach once they've left office as well. Well, can they now could they charge him for dereliction of duty, like in a court of law, just in general?
The Court of Military Justice could, until the statute of limitations runs out.
So the military could actually on their own try him for that if they wanted.
Yeah. And that is a much more difficult charge to defend against than the inciting an insurrection. Now,
I do want to state that the joint Joint Chiefs of the military came out with a letter to all of the military personnel and said, we serve the Constitution and not the president. We are here to defend the country. Basically, if you, I should have it. I honest to God should have it up so I can read it. But to paraphrase, like to shorten, the TLDR of it was, what happened Wednesday is unconstitutional. It's not okay. And they were not happy with how Trump handled it in any way, shape, or form. And they wanted to remind the military that behavior is not going to be tolerated.
Right.
So, is it a possibility that could actually happen?
Depends on the military.
I kind of hope it happens. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I want
I don't think they'll do it.
No, you don't.
I think they're just letting the U.S. attorney in Southern New York run the entire investigation into Trump and his family, and charges will come from him.
Now, there's now possible evidence that we addressed the bribes for the pardons.
We didn't address it entirely.
No, the pardons, there's allegations that a pardon cost $2 million, and that's why all these people were able to get pardons.
Yes.
They just paid him $2 million.
Donated to his, company. Donated to his
goes back
re-election.
Which goes back to the other thing that the Umbrella Corporation that, was it Kushner? Was it his son-in-law?
I think it was Eric Trump.
Okay. That one of his sons created, and so that's embezzlement, correct? That's embezzling, right? Or would that fall under fraudulent campaign, whatever?
It would be a violation of campaign finance laws.
Okay. Which, in my opinion, needs to be limited, but
a re-election fund go to a private corporation. The private corporation doles out money, and there's no money trail, and like $500 million is up in smoke.
Wasn't there is allegations that he paid each of his family members like $6 million from campaign funds?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I read so many articles
that
last
isn't
week.
Necessarily illegal if they had positions in the campaign.
Oh,
so if they're a consultant, you can give a consultant as much money as you want.
But it feels so messed up.
It's corrupt.
That's so.
He's not telling the people that are his base, who's giving them $5 and $10, that he's giving their money to his family.
Yeah. I mean, if it was me and I found out that like the politician that we donated to, Bernie Sanders, I voted for Bernie Sanders in, the pre-election, and then I voted for Biden. All right. I voted for the Democrat. I don't have a problem talking about who I voted for. I also voted for some Republicans in our local election because they were the better choice, in my opinion. I vote for who I think is the better choice. Anyway, that aside, getting off topic, I would be upset if I found out that Bernie Sanders was paying his family the money I donated to him for his campaign instead of using it for his campaign.
That's why I stopped donating to the United Way in the 90s.
Oh.
The United Way was using a lot of those funds for personal travel vacations and all that kind of thing. And so I was done. So anyhow, we need to get back to the law.
Where do we go from here? So one of the questions was, would it be better to wait till after the inauguration? As far as impeaching Trump, no, we needed to impeach him before the inauguration.
Correct.
Because then he wouldn't have been impeached. He wouldn't have been eligible to be impeached.
It would have been a moot point.
Right. However, now the Senate has to deal with charging him for this. And
trying him for it.
Trying him for it. So that, unfortunately, because the Senate is actually pretty split right now.
Yeah, it's 50-50.
Yeah, it's pretty 50-50, which
you would need 67 votes for impeaching. Well, not for impeaching, but for finding him guilty. So if along party lines, if you had 50 Democrats vote for it, you'd have to find 17 Republican senators that will go for it.
There are 17 Republican senators who actually wrote to Biden this morning and said that they are behind him.
Right, but are they
actually behind him? That's the question.
Yeah, you're going to get someone like Lindsey Graham.
Anyway, so a good question is, so yes, federally, there's a lot that you can charge Trump for. What about the monument and statues executive order that he implemented? Could that be used against his followers that went to the Capitol?
If you can show that they vandalized a monument.
So it doesn't, the federal buildings doesn't fall under that?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It's open to interpretation.
Okay. So it's a maybe.
Yeah, it's a maybe.
Interesting.
You can always throw another charge at everybody.
And just see. What about home states? Like, can states charge? Could states charge them for what happened?
General rule, no.
Okay.
For example, if I was to go kill somebody in Nevada,
Right.
California can't charge me with that murder. Nevada has to charge me with that murder.
Okay.
I can be then extradited to Nevada and trial, but I wouldn't be tried in California.
So the most that the states would do is just extradite them to DC.
Yes.
Okay.
Although a number of them are being arrested by the feds in their home state and transported to a federal location.
Well, because they showcase themselves. They like some of these people were posting pictures on Facebook after it all happened.
Here's some free advice. If you're going to commit a crime, don't video yourself. Don't post it afterwards.
That's the thing. I don't think they thought they were doing a crime. I genuinely don't think these people believed they were criminal.
No, they thought they were saving their country because that's what Trump told them they were doing.
Yeah. He knew his base and he knew how to manipulate them.
Yeah,
which is what a narcissist does.
He's a master grifter.
Yeah. That is what a narcissist does. And I think, oh God, I forget who said it, but I've seen this a couple of times. America just got out of a 4-year abusive relationship. We did. We just got out of a 4-year abusive relationship with a narcissistic sociopath who constantly beat us up, who constantly treated us like crap, who constantly put his needs before anybody else's needs.
Yeah.
So it turns out there are quite a few veterans that were on the grounds there. What can happen to them? Can they lose their rights?
Depends what you mean by their rights.
Well, I'm sorry.
Their veteran benefits?
Their veteran, yeah. Can they lose their veteran benefits and stuff?
Not entirely.
Okay.
If they had been discharged, right? They're no longer in service. They get their benefits. If they get thrown in jail for a felony, 60 days after they get thrown in jail, their benefits are put on hold for their entire prison term.
So while they're in prison, they don't get their benefits.
Correct. Once they get out of prison, they're eligible to get their benefits reinstated.
Do you think that if it comes to treason and insurrection and stuff like that, they should have them completely removed?
It's not the law.
Okay. All right.
The law's the law.
Okay.
You can change the law.
Right.
But no, the ones that are currently in the military and they could be dishonorably discharged and lose their benefits. But the ones that have already been honorably discharged.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert in the code of military justice, but I don't think you can go back and change that discharge.
Gotcha. Right. So I think we actually addressed the first, second, and third degree murder in the last podcast.
Yeah.
Did we not? Okay.
It's and just to recap, felony murder is usually second degree. Because when you use felony murder, it's hard to say things were premeditated, which is first degree. You are charging murder through a legal process, not through actions.
Okay.
Direct actions, if that makes any sense to you.
No, my brain is.
And third degree murder is usually manslaughter.
Okay, can you kind of actually explain that again? Like, all right, I'm a little confused. First degree murder is premeditated.
Yeah, you got to have premeditation.
So you go to a thing to cause violence. How is that not premeditated? Like, I'm going to be violent at this riot. How is that not premeditated?
Because that's different than going to the riot and saying, I'm going to kill somebody.
Well, they were saying they wanted to hang Pence. Like, they never got to Pence, but...
They didn't hang him.
Okay, but they ended up killing someone.
Right. So they did not premeditate a police officer's killing.
Okay.
It is reasonably foreseeable, which is different.
Okay.
And that's why it would be second degree.
Man, that is... I feel like it should be first degree because they had the intention to go and kill people. And I don't think they really cared who they killed.
Some of them did. I mean, some of them were there looking for Pelosi and Pence to kill them. And you had one congresswoman tweeting out Pelosi's whereabouts as much as she knew.
Wasn't she removed from... She wasn't removed from office.
No, she should be.
Wasn't she... I feel like she was arrested or something. Or she was...
No.
Was I... Okay, did I just dream that?
Yes.
Okay.
She should be removed and, the Republican Party should replace her with someone who isn't a traitor.
Yeah. She literally put a fellow colleague's life in danger.
Yeah.
And every single one of those people who were in office at that riot all should be removed from office, period. And should never be eligible for office again.
Especially if they can prove that those particular congressmen took the rioters on a recon mission the day before.
Oh, yeah. That was something that came out, too, afterwards. So... There have been no... Okay, let's talk about that for a second. The day before the riots, there was a tour of the federal building. Before that day, there had not been... The federal buildings were not open to tours due to COVID-19.
And haven't been for months.
And haven't been. So why the day before? Why now?
Yeah, and there's an investigation going on to that, and if it's proved that
really suspicious,
that is what happened, those particular representatives should be removed from office, and charged with insurrection. Period.
That's insane to me. So now that the inauguration happened, what does this mean going forward? Well, first off, Biden has already revoked 9 of Trump's executive orders.
Yeah, there'll be more.
There's going to be more. But one of them specifically that I wanted to note, an executive order directing the government to interpret the Civil Rights Act as prohibiting workplace discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity, not just race, color, religion, sex, and national origin. So what that essentially means is that they can no longer use your sexual orientation to deny you work. They cannot discriminate you because you're transgender, because you're part of the LGBT community, non-binary. They can no longer use that. And that's something that Trump had actually, signed into executive order.
Right. They can't tell you what bathroom to use.
Yeah, they can't tell you what bathroom they there's a lot. He also signed in the memorandum for DACA. We're no longer building the wall, which was a waste of resources.
Honestly, we weren't building the wall to begin with.
No, we weren't.
We were replacing sections of a pre-existing wall, but we weren't building any new construction. And I'm going to say the drug cartels, they just tunnel under the wall anyway. So it's a waste of money.
We are going back to the Paris Accords for the
climate change.
The climate change, which is a good thing because climate change is real. We've gone back into WHO. CDC, his main thing is COVID, and trying to get the pandemic and everything down for COVID. And so he has signed a total of 17 executive orders and 9 revocations. Thank you. That directly overturn Trump policies. And now I have a question on that. Why is he able to do that? Why does he not have to go through Congress to revoke that stuff?
Because everything that he's revoking, Trump didn't go through Congress either. He did by executive order.
So, okay, when it comes to checks, all right, I'm a little confused on that because, I mean, the whole point of the checks and balances system is so that our president doesn't try to do things dictatorially. So yes. How do executive order? They're not law, are they? They're not law.
They're policy.
They're just policy. So policy is easy to add in and remove. But if they wanted to make a policy a law, they'd have to go through Congress.
Correct.
Okay, so that's why policies are easy to revoke.
Yes. And, the executive branch is extensive.
Yeah.
Education, health, human services, defense. There's lots of policies out there, and those policies directly affect the lives of Americans. Congress does not have direct authority to change policy absent passing laws. And so when Trump's administration said this is going to be the policy, Biden can come in and say this is no longer the policy. Likewise, in 2024, the new president, whoever it may be, if there is one, he may run again. He'll be 81. God bless him. Could say, these Biden policies are no longer in effect.
Okay. All right. So what's an example of a policy that became a law? Or vice versa, something that got rid of a policy and that policy can no longer... Are there any examples of policies becoming law?
I'm sure there are. That's a question I would need to research because off the top of my head, I don't want to say anything that the Voting Rights Act became a law when it became policy ahead of time. I don't know that that's true.
Okay.
There may have been policies before the Civil Rights Act where, according to the Commerce Clause, there is a policy that having separate eating places for whites as opposed to blacks couldn't be enforced. I don't know that that's true either, because even after the Civil Rights Act was passed and became law, there's a lot of segregation.
There was still a lot of, there was.
So,
I'm actually very curious on that. Oh man. So, Trump did not show up at the inauguration.
No, he didn't.
And that is very, very telling, because never in the history of an inauguration has a president not been there.
Yes. It's happened before.
Oh, it has happened?
Yes.
Okay, when?
Let's see. I believe it was Martin Van Buren who did not show up for Andrew Jackson's.
Okay.
I mean, you're talking 100 years ago. I don't believe Andrew Johnson showed up for Ulysses S. Grant's.
Okay.
But in recent modern history, it has not happened.
So it has happened in the past.
Yes.
But, okay. But that is very telling of his caliber of person, that he can't even... I don't, you know what? I will not get on that soapbox. I'm trying to think of what else. Man, I can't think of anything else that just pops out off the top of my head worth really discussing. I mean, what was your opinion on the inauguration speech and what was your opinion on today?
Well, first and foremost, of all the speakers, that 22-year-old poet laureate,
Amanda Gorman.
Thank you. Very impressive.
Are you starting to tear up?
She was very impressive.
She was so good. That for a 22 years old, youngest ever poet speaker at an inauguration. 2, youngest youth poet, or she was the first youth poet laureate. And she is, I'd never heard of her before today.
No, neither did I. Of course, I'm not a big fan of poets.
I am a fan of poetry, but I hadn't heard of her before. I mean, I fangirled when Maya Angelou came out for Obama, his first. It was his first one.
Yeah.
Because Maya Angelou is all-time favorite. But I read an article that says that she wants to run in 2035 for president.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's yeah, she'll be old enough. You have to be at least 35.
Yeah. So,
now, you don't know where to go from here. I'm going to say you'll notice that as time has gone on, there's been a lot more charges brought against the rioters.
Yeah.
You will see a lot more in the future.
Okay, so do you know what's been brought forward so far? It's not just insurrection now. What else has there been?
Trespassing, being in a restricted federal zone, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So far, there hasn't been a burglary charge.
Okay. I think there has been for the people who actually have evidence where they stole stuff. Like
the lectern?
The lectern, the podium, the laptop.
Which, I'm going to say this. Who the woman behind that laptop theft who wanted to sell it to the Russians just needs to be put away.
That is, by the way, I saw a tweet. A girl, it was on TikTok. She was like, this was my middle school girlfriend, and showed a picture of her and the girl and said, she deserves to go to jail. I'm like, this is insane. I've seen so many people turning in family members that they saw going, and I'm just like,
There was one guy that told his family he would kill them if he got turned in by them.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. I think I'd call the a home and have him turned in for mental issues, because that's messed up. Anyway, I mean, we're at an hour. I think we pretty much covered everything.
Please send us questions.
Yes. Continue to send us questions. We love answering your questions. Next week we will come back. What we will do for next week is the 1776 policy is what I wanted to. The thing. What is it called?
It's the 1776 Commission report.
Yes, the 1776 Commission report. That's something I actually wanted to address today as well. For those of you who don't know what it is, the TLDR version is Trump signed this order that basically changed the education system to where they basically made slavery not look as bad as what it is. And that the country was founded in 1776 and started in 1776. And just, if you read this policy and you read this education memorandum, it's you just go, what? Excuse me? Like, it just completely ignores everything from the beginning history of this country, because they don't want to talk about that uncomfortable stuff. They don't. One of the things that it was like, slavery is not exclusive to the United States. It's everywhere. Yes, that is true. That doesn't mean that what we did wasn't bad. It was bad, and we should address it. Yeah,
and it's they did that commission in response to the New York Times 1619 program.
Yes,
which I got to do some research on that too.
So, do you want to make that next week's podcast then?
We'll make that next week's podcast, and we'll go through a list of changes because a week goes by. Biden's going to issue a lot more executive orders. We'll go through
the executive orders that have happened in the next week. And we will go into more depth on the 1776 commission and the 1619 and what all that actually entails. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for watching.
Thank you everyone for listening to Learning the Law. If you like this podcast and you want to hear more, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and share in all your favorite places. We are now available on Spotify, iTunes, and your favorite listening spot. You can find it hosted on Twitch at twitch.tv/PhoenixNymphy. Use the hashtag Learning the Law on TikTok to follow more there. You can find Ron on Twitter at NacroKijo and Ashley on most social media platforms at Phoenix Nymphy. If you have any questions, please tweet, comment, or email at twolazydogsmedia@gmail.com. This has been a Two Lazy Dogs production.
Bye, everyone.